I think Macbeth is basically what it says on the tin.
My job is to stand out of the way of the play and let the play speak for itself.
Some of them I think are just a bit more accessible than others, and I always think Macbeth is one of them. He starts the play as a general, a soldier. He's the Thane of Glamis, so he's a nobleman. In the course of the play he becomes Thane of Cawdor as well, and then king. He's a husband and becomes a tyrant.
I kind of have this image in my head that Macbeth was written for James VI, James I, and that Shakespeare was writing kind of quite a bespoke play, and perhaps James VI liked James Bond films and wanted a kind of action hero type play.
It's great to be in a rehearsal room with him because we just have such an electricity and there is such a passion. But the great thing is that we just work so well together, and I mean, I'm not scared by him and he's not scared by me. So our first day of rehearsals, there was snogging, there was throwing each other around the room. You know, we're very free with each other.
It's nice to have an ease with someone from day one, so you know you don't have to kind of pussyfoot around, you know, snogging or whatever, or you know, it's lovely to have that ease with someone.
I think first and foremost she's a wife, she's a homemaker, she's a very, very intelligent woman. I think she's a very, very strong woman who's the backbone as such of Macbeth, and I think has been, not just in the things that happen in this play, but I think in their marriage has been the backbone of him. And yeah, very shrewd customer.
I think I see them in terms of being a reasonably young couple, a couple who are very much in love, and there's a kind of a strong possibility that things could go well for them. But of course Macbeth's ambition gets in the way.
I think one of the tragedies of the play is that relationship, that marriage being wrested apart. Because it seems to me at the beginning they're very, very close and tight and together, but their appalling decision to do this just, you know, rends them asunder. As I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with hail king that shall be.
I think just in terms of our approach to it, I'm very keen that the actors really know what they're talking about, so that they have the thoughts in place, and that allows them to convey the sense to an audience. Even if an audience doesn't get every single last word, they'll get the sense of what's being said. Finding ways of even picking up on how he rhythmically says
speech pattern and
yeah. The other thing I just want to feed in at the moment is that sense that this is your space.
Yes.
It's your house. And if you remember from looking at the set model, you've got banisters, railings, whatever we call them. So I think just experiment a bit with that relationship to the house.
The audience has to have an affection for this woman to see how far her and her husband, you know, fall. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me.
Lucy Osborne and I got together and started to think about what the world of Macbeth might be. And I felt very strongly that I wanted to set it in a kind of traditional way, because it's very often there are lots of productions that have happened quite recently that have been, you know, wonderful, but set in very modern contemporary settings. So we then started to talk about medieval Scotland, which is, you know, the sort of imaginative world that Shakespeare sets it in. And clearly being in Scotland, that seemed like a fantastic place to start. The kind of image of the Scottish warrior with his broadsword seemed to be a wonderful place to start. So that's what we started on. So the set has a feeling of it kind of loosely feels a bit like a medieval castle, but it's also a medieval castle set in a rather wild, strange landscape, which is, I would say, kind of the witches' landscape, really. And because it's set in a medieval world, the idea that there are evil spirits lurking in the undergrowth is kind of completely believable. I've been very lucky because I've worked with Terry King, who's a great sword choreographer, fight director.
And 1, 2, and 1, 2.
I said we were sort of thinking about a kind of medieval world, and he said, well, so they're not quite broadswords, but they're kind of in that area. And he said to me there are about 5 in the country that are really good ones. Shall I book them? So we have the 5 best fighting swords in the country.
And slide it down stage. And that's what takes you off the edge.
Terry and I, and indeed the actors, talk about what the story of the fight is, and then obviously he takes the actors and works through very slowly the moves. So we have this sort of strange thing where they appear to be working in slow motion. And then they get faster and faster and faster.
One of the fascinating things I think about him is that although we are and we should be appalled by him and what he does and what he becomes, we are still, I think, hopefully kind of fascinated by him because he keeps turning to us in the soliloquies and telling us how it feels to be where he's ended up.
Because it's such a good story, I think it bears the retelling, and that every time an audience sees and hears it, it yields different things.
It's very straightforward. The language is not too convoluted. It's blood, it's gore, it's power and strength and greed.
He's very articulate about what it is, what it feels like to be this kind of monster and butcher and killer.